Okay guys, so this video is going to be a little bit different to my usual content, and it's just going to be an unscripted, much less edited video where I do live product research, showing you exactly how I do product research so that you can follow along and do it as well. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Okay guys, so when you're doing Amazon product research, you can really break down the process into 3 steps. So the first step is coming up with product ideas. The second step is then actually taking those product ideas over to Amazon and assessing the strength of the demand and competition across the whole market for that product. And then the third and final stage is then thinking of ways that you can actually differentiate that product idea. So improving on the competition and developing that product idea to create a more desirable offer than what's out there at the moment. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm just going to break this down into 2 parts. We're going to firstly look at how to find product ideas, and then I'll show you how to assess the strength of the demand, the competition, and how to think of ways to kind of develop and improve those product ideas. So I'm going to firstly just show you 2 of my favorite ways to actually just come up with those initial product ideas. And the first is using the Helium 10 black box tool. So once you're logged into Helium 10, and by the way, guys, if you're not using Helium 10 yet, use the link down in the description. That'll give you the best discounts available on Helium 10 at the moment. Now, what you want to do is once you're in Helium 10, come to the black box tool. So if you don't know where that is, just click on tools, and then it will just be under product research here, and it will take you to a tool that looks like this. Now, once you're in the black box tool, what you want to make sure you've got selected is advanced rather than simple. And then what we need to do is we need to give the tool some criteria. So essentially the way that this tool works is that it basically has access to all of the individual products on Amazon's catalog. And what you can do is give it some specific criteria. So I only want to find products that make this much revenue, or are in this category, or have grown 20% over the last year in demand, or whatever it might be. And then what the tool will do is it will look through all of Amazon's catalogs and find any of the products that meet the criteria that you're looking for, and then give them to you. And this is how you can come up with some great initial product ideas. Now, the first thing really we want to select here is just category. Now, you can see here, there is an option to select all, which some people might do. Now, the reason why you don't want to select all is there's a bit of a weird quirk with the black box tool where basically it will only show you between 200 and 500 results depending on what plan you're on. For the plan that most of you will be on, the platinum plan, it will only show you the first 200 results. Now, the reason why Helium 10 does this is just because they want to make sure that they're not showing everyone the same results, and they really want you to use these filters to filter it down to under 200 results. So everyone's getting slightly different search results. We're not all finding the same product. So if you select all categories, you're just going to get more than 200 results, and you will only see the first 200. So you want to be a bit more specific with this. So what I would recommend is at the bare minimum selecting one of these specific categories, or even better, you probably want to go down to a subcategory. So some great categories would be baby products, things like home and kitchen. Basically, you can sell in any of these categories. What I would just generally say is that as a new Amazon seller, if this is your first product, you want to make your life as easy as possible. There's no products that should 100% be avoided, and some that are great to go with. It doesn't work like that. But generally, as a new seller, you want to try and make your life as easy as possible. So there are products that have less kind of issues or hurdles to kind of jump over. So for instance, electronic products require the CE or UKCA mark in the UK that requires you to do certain testing, creating things like a declaration of conformity. All this hassle which you don't necessarily want to do with your first product. So like I said, you can sell in any of these categories, but as a new seller, if you want to create less hassle for yourself, then you're better off selling a simple, durable, everyday product that's not going to require any specific testing or certifications. So you probably want to avoid anything that's going to be consumed, come in contact with your skin, or anything electronic. Like I said, you can still launch those products, but you may want to consider avoiding those for your first product. So here, what I'm going to just come down to is I'm going to come to home and kitchen. And yeah, look, let's start off by selecting the whole category. I think that's going to be a bit broad, but we'll start off selecting the whole category, and then obviously we can go down to a smaller subcategory if that's too broad. The next thing we want to enter here is price point. I'm going to select between 15 and 100 pounds. Again, I'm going to try and keep this quick, but the reason why I'm doing this is that as a new seller, you generally want to try and avoid anything under 15 pounds. Your margins just get quite tight at that point. Any small miscalculations, any fluctuations in shipping costs have a massive impact on your profit margin. I'm experienced seller. I sell 2 different ASINs, 2 products under £10, so you can do it, but at the beginning you probably want to avoid it. again, over £100. Look, you can sell products over that, but I personally wouldn't, just because if customers return those and they're damaged, etc., that's going to have a much bigger impact, or it's going to cost you a lot more. So that's kind of the Goldilocks range. I really want to quickly point out that I think a lot of the time people get really attached to what people say in these videos. They say, hey, look, he said 15 to 100. He said between this and this. I'm just giving you a rough guide, but I really encourage you to play around with these settings. These are not hard rules. These are just what I would suggest, but definitely have a play around with all of these things. And they're not hard rules. They're just recommendations, but definitely you can sell products over 100. You can sell products under 15. You can sell products in electronic category. You can sell in supplements category. These are just recommendations for a new seller with their first product. Okay, so next after we put in price point, we want to add in the shipping size. So here we're going to select everything apart from oversize. The reason why we do this is basically with oversized products or products that are over a certain weight. So I'm just going to put 14 pounds here, about 7 kilos, about 15 pounds, sorry. Basically anything that's kind of oversized or too heavy, the fulfillment fees are going to get really expensive. The shipping costs from China are going to be really expensive. You are much more susceptible to fluctuations in the shipping costs and all of that stuff. So generally smaller, lighter weight products make better Amazon FBA products. And then really the final thing that we need to enter here is revenue range. And this is really, really important. So when you're looking at revenue range, we want to look here at the parent level revenue. So what this basically means is if the seller is selling a variation listing with 5 different colors, we're looking at the total revenue across all of those colors, not just the individual colors, which is really what we're interested in here. So what should you put here? Well, essentially what you should put is you need to be looking at what budget you've got, right? So if you've got a budget of £5,000, then your target revenue for the product should be about £5,000. So it should be about 1 times your starting budget. What I would say at this point is you want to basically go 50% above and 50% below. So if you had £5,000 starting budget, I would say something like 3,000 to maybe 7,500, something like that. Or yeah, I'd say about 3,000 to like kind of 7,000 would be like a good range for this example. The reason why you want to have a little bit of a range here is, remember, this tool is going to give us individual products. So it's going to show us a single brand of water bottle, let's say, for example. And just because this might be doing 7,000, it might be outside of your budget. When we actually look at all of the sellers, what we might find is that the average seller is only doing about 4,000 or 5,000, which is totally within your budget, and this might be an outlier. So always give yourself a bit of a range when you're entering your budget in here, your revenue in here. And just say, guys, the reason why I don't put a really high revenue in here, like 20,000, if you've got a £5,000 budget, is just like you simply won't have enough. You simply won't have enough budget to buy enough stock to launch that product properly and to have the cash flow to actually stay in stock with that product. So make sure you don't try and launch a product that's outside of where the demand's higher than your budget, basically. Okay, so at that point, this is all we're going to do. We're just going to leave it this. We're going to leave it broad. There's loads of other things that we can do, but we're just going to leave it broad at this point. We're going to click search. I can always guarantee we're going to have over 200 results, which means we're only going to see the first 200. So you'll see here for me, I see 500 results. That's because I'm on a higher plan with Helium 10. For most of you in the Platinum plan, you'll only see 200, but we've got over 500 results here, which means we basically have too many results. In this kind of situation, what you would want to do is you can go through these first 200, but then what you probably want to do is edit it. I'd come in to Home and Kitchen. I'd click and I'd come down and I basically unselect all of these, and then I'll just select specific categories. So maybe I'd look at storage and organization, indoor lighting, whatever it might be. And when you do that, you will start to bring this number of results down. But for now, let's just go. We've got some product ideas here already, so let's just go through some of these. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, so hopefully you guys can see this a little bit better. Let's see if we can make this a bit bigger. No, okay. So let's see. What have we got here? So we've got a fitted sheet. We've got a crystal brandy glass. We've got an Indian wall hanging tapestry. We've got a foldable leg rest stool. Okay, so what you can see is we've got loads of different product ideas here. Some really good product ideas. So what are you doing at this stage where when you're kind of looking through these and making a decision of whether to kind of carry them over to the next step? Well, at this point, we know that any product we're looking at has good revenue within the range that we're looking at. We know that it's the right kind of size of product that we're looking at, and we know it's in a category we're interested in. So really at this point, all you're trying to do is kind of ask yourself one last thing, and that's really, if I was to brand this product, is this a product that would benefit from branding through good branding, which is an integral part of private label. It's really one of the biggest advantages is you have as a US or a UK private label seller over the Chinese private label sellers, is your ability to understand the market, be able to create really good or really well niche specific branded products. So one of the main things you want to ask yourself at this point is just whether the product would benefit from branding. And so I would go through this process and I would look at this fitted sheet, and I would say this is a product that is just like, it's a utility product. It's not going to benefit from branding very much. It's going to just be basically a battle on pricing for this product because branding is really not going to help. So I probably would avoid a product like that. Something like these crystal glasses. Okay, this is definitely something that could benefit from branding. We can see this seller has really nice branding. They have a branded box in their main hero image. So this is something that I would then add to my list. So at this point, what you want to do is we need to then find the main keyword for this product before we move it on to stage 2. So what I would do at this point is I would take what I think is the main keyword. So here we've got crystal brandy glass. You can normally tell what the main keyword is because any good seller is going to include like kind of the main keyword. When I say main keyword, it's the keyword that is most relevant to the product that has the highest search volume. It's really the most important keyword for the product. What you want to do, most good sellers will actually include this in the beginning of their listing. That's good SEO. That's what you guys should be doing. So normally what you can do is, this will probably be it, but we can double check this, right? So we'll just copy this. And then what you want to do is you want to open a second tab with the Helium 10 magnet tool. And then once you're in the Helium 10 magnet tool, what you want to do is just paste in that main keyword. And then click get keyword. So basically what the Helium 10 magnet tool does is it finds all of the keywords that are basically associated with this keyword, and then we can actually have a look at them. We can see how high the search volume is for the different ones, and if there's a keyword that accurately describes a product that has better search volume or higher search volume than this keyword, we know that's really the main keyword and the one we want to focus on. And look, we say quote unquote main keyword. Lots of products will have several keywords that have good search volume. So, there's main keywords, plural. It's not always just one, but just at the beginning, you really want to just focus on just having a look at one for simplicity. So on match type, you want to select organic after you search the keyword and then click apply filters. Then what we'll do, the kind of last step, is to then filter by search volume. And we said here, crystal brandy glass. We can see that crystal brandy glass only has about 114 monthly searches, whereas brandy glass has much higher monthly searches. So brandy glass is probably the main keyword. You could argue that crystal brandy glass is a little bit more specific because it's for the crystal glasses. But if we have a look, we can see here that most of these are quite similar. So I would say in this example, brandy glass is probably more likely the main keyword. So that's kind of the one that we would analyze. Okay, so we've already come up with one product idea, but what you've got to understand is that when we're finding this product idea here, this is an individual product. So we know that this individual product meet some of the criteria we're looking at in terms of demand, in terms of revenue, but this is just one product. So stage 2 is then, instead of just looking at one product, it's then coming over to Amazon, searching that main keyword, and then analyzing the whole market for this product and looking at what the overall demand is for the market, what the level of competition is like, trying to see if we can see any gaps in the market, areas that we can improve on the competition, and so on. You need to then take that individual product and then analyze the market as a whole, because this product might be doing really good revenue, but the rest of the products might not be at all. This might just be one product doing really well, which means that there's just no demand for this product as a whole, or not enough to serve you as well. And therefore it's a product you wouldn't move forward with. So that's why you have to do that's why we have to do that second step. And now in terms of the workflow, what you can do is do this all in one go, right? So you can find a product using the Helium 10 black box tool. You can find the main keyword, take it straight over to Amazon, then load the Helium 10 X-ray tool, which is what we're going to be using to analyze the strength of demand and competition. And you can do that all in one continuous flow, product by product. So analyze this product, then once you've decided on this product, go back, find another one, and do it all in one continuous flow. The second way that you can do it is you can build up a really long list of products that you find in this kind of first step. And then once you have like a really decent list, then take them one by one to the second step. And that might be an easier way to do it if this is the first time you're doing it. And that's the way that I'm going to do it in this video, just to basically show you, just to build up a nice list of keywords, and show you also another technique that you can use to find initial product ideas as well. So here's the Product Research X tool. This is one of the tools that comes with my training program. We have an area basically to put in your initial product ideas, a page that you can then move your product ideas to stage 2 and put in the information when you're assessing the strength of demand and competition. And then we also have this cool 999 cart tracking tool, which if you know, this is a way to basically work out whether the demand that the Helium 10 tool is actually showing you is true, so to validate that demand. So this is all built into this tool. So if you don't have a tool like this, you can just create an Excel tool similar and then just pop in your product ideas. So I'll just pop in brandy glass because we saw that was the main keyword. And then we'll move on to finding more. Now guys, for any of you watching who want access to this tool and also some really in-depth product research training alongside one-to-one support mentorship by myself, where I can actually review your product ideas, provide feedback on them, and kind of support you through the whole process of launching your private label business. If that interests you, check out my full training program. There'll be a link in the description. Go book a call with me and we'll basically see whether we're a good fit. And yeah, it'd be great to work with you if that's something you'd be interested in. Okay, so to make this whole process a bit easier, I've just got to split my screen here so we can just kind of look, just add them, so let's go through some more of these, right, to kind of walk you through the way that I look at this. So again, a mandala or a wall hanging, it's just not something that you're really going to stand out through branding. I guess you could through a different design, but personally it's not something I'd really consider. A roller blind, again, is not something I'd personally look into. Leg rest stool, potentially, again, maybe not, but there's no harm. We'll take that, take it over to magnet, and we'll go through that same process. And yeah, basically we'll let that load. We'll go through that exact same process of trying to find the main keywords. Like I said, you let it load. Then what you want to do is again, select match type. The different match types is just the different way the magnet tool will basically use its algorithm to find connected keywords. The one that's going to give you the most accurate results is organic. So don't worry about the others. That's not overcomplicated. Just click filter and then, oh God, I've zoomed in on this too much. Let me zoom out. Well, actually, look, I could probably get away with it here. Okay, I'm going to filter by search volume. And then we've got footstool. So foot rest stool. Let's see if footstool is showing kind of similar products. These are slightly different. But yeah, let's add this to the list. So we're going to add footstool. So I'll just select that and come over and we'll add that to our list. Then we'll come back over to the black box tool. Let's have a look through this. Recliner chair cover. Now guys, at this stage, really, you just want to keep things quite loose. Don't be too hard with your selections. You know, if you want to put something on the list, put it on the list. It really doesn't matter too much. But what I would generally say is, like I said earlier, it's not just about whether you stick your brand on something all over it, is it going to sell better? What you've really got to be asking yourself is, you know, is there room for me to create a real brand in this market? And through creating a real brand, is my product going to be able to stand out and appear more premium? Am I going to be able to create a differentiated offer in that market? These are the things you need to be thinking about. So I would argue something like this, which is an indoor mat. So something like a doormat, anything that's a really standardized product. So things like a doormat, a bath towel set, a cutlery set, curtains. These are the kind of areas that personally I wouldn't enter, because it's going to be really hard to stand out. Really what you're just kind of competing on is kind of design and price. And it's going to be hard for you to build a real brand around products like that and really stand out from the competitors through doing that. So personally, look, everyone should have their own criteria, but personally, those are kind of examples of products I probably wouldn't consider. Something like, let's see what we've got here. Something like this, which is a silicon ice tray. With something like this, there's loads of possibilities for loads of different designs, different shapes, different colors, loads of different styles. So that's something that would be easier to differentiate yourself in, a market that would be easier to differentiate yourself in. So that's an example of something I would add to the list. So let's just add this to the list. I'm not going to go through the magnet tool. We're going to try and speed this up a little bit. So I would just say silicon large ice cube tray. When we go into stage 2, I'll use the ones that I have used the magnet tool for, but just pretend that I am using the magnet tool just like I showed you. But I just want to try and speed this up a little bit. So let's go through this, see what else we've got here. anything that kind of jumps out at me. Just to point out as well, you'll come across things like this, like up here, what I saw, one of the products was like an electric heated throw blanket. So just keep an eye out for that. If you're trying to avoid electronic products because you don't want the hassle of doing the UKCA or CE marking if you're in the EU, then you just obviously wouldn't add a product like that onto your list. Okay, let's have a look at the second page. Okay, so again, we've got some doormats, we've got a pepper grinder. Okay, so this is like a good example, right? So let's say that you were to considering launching either a mat or a pepper grinder, right? So let's say that you launched a grey doormat, and obviously there's no point really doing much with branding because it's not really going to make any difference. People are just going to pick the one that looks the best or is the best price. Let's say you launch it and it might do well. Let's say that someone else comes and launches the exact design of doormat and they undercut you by 50p. The customer's going to just pick the cheaper option because it's just such a I'm not trying to think of what word I'd use. It's just a very it's just a utility product that basically two products will be pretty much identical to each other. Now let's say instead you decide to go with the pepper grinder set. You could launch. There's so much scope for launching a different design and having really good branding that if you found a different design that's not on Amazon at the moment that looks great and you think people are going to love, you can launch that design with some really nice niche specific branding, a really nicely designed product packaging box that you have in your main hero image. And even if someone else was to launch a product and they're £1 cheaper than you, if they're not able to match the quality of your branding and the style of your product, then customers will still pick your product over theirs. And that's the difference between these two kind of products. And like I said, that's the edge that you have over some of the Chinese sellers, is your ability to understand your market really well, create really nice niche specific branding for the products, nice designed product packaging, well-designed images. And that gives you that competitive advantage. That's the competitive advantage you have as a local seller. And if you were to pick a product like, for instance, this doormat, you don't have that advantage anymore because that advantage doesn't help in a product like this. So I'm just going to add pepper grinder, maybe salt grinder, something like that. Obviously, what you'd probably do is come over to Magnet. You'd check for the main keyword. Maybe you might find salt and pepper grinder as a pair has really good search volume. Maybe that's what you'd look at instead. But obviously, I'm just skipping that step for now to make this video a bit quicker. Okay, so what you want to do is basically then just go through that exact same process page by page. Then what you want to do once you've exhausted all the pages of results is you can come back to edit filters. Let me just zoom out here a little bit for you because we're super zoomed in. What you can do is come back to edit filters and then you just close this and you just choose a different subcategory and you go through it subcategory by subcategory by subcategory, and you'll find that very quickly you have a huge list of products that you can then take over to stage 2. What you should also have a play around with is have a play around with these other filters. So I haven't gone into these too much, but what you can see here is you've got review count, BSR, review rating, you've got loads of different filters. So just an example of some that can be quite useful. What you have here, where is it? Yeah, sales change over the year. So this is percentage sales change year over year. So there's these filters you can use to try and narrow your search down to products that have have more potential. So using this one here, let's zoom in this a little bit. Sales year on year, what you can do here is say, okay, a minimum of 50%. So what this will show you is individual products where the sales for that product have increased by over 50% over the last year versus the previous 12 months. Now, what you sometimes find, or a lot of the time you find, is because we're looking at individual products, it might be that that product launched a year ago, and obviously the sales have just increased by 50% because that product's just launched and it's just a growing product rather than a market, or that individual product has just, the sales have just grown for it. It doesn't mean the whole market is growing, but often what it does mean is that if a product sales have grown a lot, what it can mean, and hopefully this, if you find products like this is great, if when you actually analyze the demand as a whole, you find that actually it's the fact that demand for the whole market for that product is growing, and therefore all the other products also seeing the same level of increased sales and demand. And that's great because then you're entering into a market where the demand's actually growing over time. So that's the kind of thing that you can use these filters for. So like I said, don't follow exactly what I said, have a play around with these, and you'll find loads of different combinations and literally thousands of different products by doing this. Some other great options here is like number of images. So you can say maximum, let's say like 3 images. And the reason why this can be helpful is then you're finding products, you're trying to basically find products using these kind of filters where you think the competition is going to be a bit weaker. So this product here, for instance, the products that come up, let's say, well, look, let's apply this filter. I'll remove this one here, but we'll just apply this one of only 3 images and see what we get. So by adding that filter, essentially what you're saying is only show me products that are hitting these revenue numbers, but only have 3 images. And the idea here is, look, if this product is hitting these target revenue numbers with only 3 images, then maybe a lot of the competition only has a few images, because if they're able to do that, surely if you come to market with a product that's as good at the same price, but you have a much better listing with, all your full 7 to 9 images, or even a video, for example, surely you're going to be able to outcompete them. So that's the kind of idea with these filters. It can show you products where maybe the competition is likely to be a little bit weaker. Another example of this would be review rating or review numbers. So if we were to remove this and we were just to enter in something here like review rating, let's say 3.5, what we're saying is like very similar idea, right? If this product only shows products that are doing target revenue range, however, they've only got 3.5 star review rating. So the idea is, look, if this product here is generating our target revenue, but they've only got a 3.5 star rating, surely that means the market's going to be quite weak as a whole, because if the competitors all have 5-star ratings, surely these guys wouldn't be getting any sales. So it indicates that the rest of the competition might be quite weak. That's why these guys are still getting sales, and therefore there's a gap in the market. There's an opportunity to launch a product that has a better product that's getting better reviews and will allow you to dominate the market. So those are an idea of some other filters that you can have a play around with if you want to try and be a little bit more specific at this stage. Okay, now before we move on to stage 2, I just want to show you another great way to come up with some initial product ideas, and this is called the store sniping method. I actually love this. I actually personally prefer this to the black box method. It's awesome, and this is basically how it works, right? So you come over to Amazon and then you search for any product. So you can look around your house and try and find a product that you use, or think of something you bought on Amazon recently. Or what you can do is just take one of the products that you found in the black box tool and use it as a starting point. And this is going to be our root product. So I'm going to use here, what did we say? Brandy glasses. That wasn't super high demand. So I'm going to write in ice cube tray. That was one of the products that we had a look at. Make sure it's a product that has decent demand. And then what we want to do is we want to find, we'll have a look at basically a few of the best sellers, right? So we'll have a look at this guy here. They're doing 2K per month, 2K units. These guys are doing 1,000 units per month, only 100. So yeah, we want to have a look at basically the top organically ranked products that are doing the highest revenue. So these are basically the best performing products. Maybe let's have a look at these guys as well. Where's Amazon's choice here? Okay, there's Amazon's choice. Let's see. Okay, so we'll just start off with these guys. So the idea here is that basically you want to find the best sellers for a specific product, and then you want to come and have a click into their store to see what other products they sell. And the idea behind this method is, if this seller has managed to get their product to basically the best performing product in a specific market, so in this example, ice cube trays, they probably know what they're doing. They've probably got a great product listing, they've probably got good margins, and they probably have good PPC campaigns. So they're obviously a seller that knows what they're doing. Now, if they're a seller that knows what they're doing, then you can have a look at the other products that they sell, which are products that they've done the product research for already, they found are viable, and they've launched. So if you find other products that they've launched that are doing well within your revenue range, then look, let them do the work for you. Just pinch those product ideas. Okay, don't just blindly take them, but add them to your list and then take them over to stage 2. So it's a great way to find other product ideas. So in this example here, that is actually Amazon selling this product. So we can't use this method here. Okay, here we go. We can have a look at these guys. Sometimes you'll find that, nothing comes up that's that useful, and sometimes it can be great. So let's have a look here. So these guys have that first product we're looking at. They've got this donut mold. And that's doing about 400 sales per month. So this could be an option, a product that we basically add to our list. So this is silicon donut mold. This may be something that you've never heard of or would have never thought about before. So that's a great idea. We'll just take that silicon donut mold. And then what you would do again is going back to the magnet tool, go through that same process and then add it to your list. So yeah, I've just added that to the list, and then we'll go back. Here we've got a garlic press. Okay, great. So I'll definitely add that to the list. That's a great idea. We've got bento lunchbox, another great idea we can add to the list. We've got what's this? A silicon spoon rest. Okay, cool, right? Yeah, why not? Let's add that to the list. So we've got loads and loads and loads of product ideas. I see this is a great example, right? So this is exactly what you want to do. Now, what this method can also be really useful for is if you're trying to build a niche specific brand where you have lots of products under that brand. Let's say we go down the route of having like a kitchen utensil brand and you call your brand KitchenAid or something like that. What this can be really helpful for is actually coming up with a pipeline of products. So by doing this method, you can find all these different products that within the same niche that your top competitors are selling, and it really allows you to think about and build out a potential future pipeline of products, which can be really, really helpful when you're building a brand. And what I really love about this method is it's basically never ending. You can go down a rabbit hole, right? So look at this. So we've just come into here, we've gone through all of these, we've added loads of these to our list, and then we say, okay, how do we keep going? Okay, well, let's take garlic press. And then now we're gonna search this on Amazon. Do you wanna come back to Amazon, search garlic press, and then we just keep going. We find this bestseller, we open them, we open Amazon's Choice. Amazon's Choice always is a great one. Joseph, they're a big brand, so that's probably not gonna be helpful. These guys are a big brand off Amazon. Okay, let's go into these guys, for example. These guys are great. They've got really nice branding, good product, they're doing good sales. So this would be a good seller to look at. We'll come down, again, see all products. And boom, okay, so salt and pepper grinder, that's already one that we had on our list. We've got garlic press, ice cube trays, okay, so obviously there's a bit of a theme here, so we've all got these on our list. Okay, another one, burger press, great, let's add that to our list. Then we've got cooking tongs, okay, we'll add that to our list. We've got wooden chopping boards, let's add that to our list. So you can just see this goes on and on and on. I could take wooden chopping boards, search that, click on the top sellers, and this is just a process you can go through again and again and again and literally find thousands of product ideas in any niche. Okay, so then you should have here a really long list. So like I said, you can do this all in one continuous flow, or you can do it like I'm doing in this video and just break it up. But at this point, if you're doing like this, you should have a really long list. I haven't added all of these to the list, but just imagine this is now a really long list. So then what you want to do at this point is you then want to take each of these main keywords and then search on Amazon like I just said. So let's take salt and pepper grinder, for example. We'll then come over to Amazon and we'll search that. And then once we've searched that on Amazon, what you then want to do is come over to the Helium 10 tool and load the X-ray tool. And what we firstly want to do is look at the data. Now there's really kind of three things that we're going to be looking at here. The first is going to be price point, the second is the level of demand, and then the third is the level of competition. Are there any gaps in the market, and how can we compete in this market? That's kind of the way your brain needs to be thinking. So the first thing that we want to do is click on filters and then select hide sponsored products from the results. Whenever you're doing this kind of analysis, you don't want to be looking at the sponsored listings. You only want to be looking at the organically ranked listings. The reason for that is the sponsored listings are paying to play. They're paying to have those positions. The organically ranked products are the products that are performing well and therefore have good organic ranking, and that's where we want to look at, because basically your goal is to gain good organic ranking. If this is your goal, let's look at only the organically ranked products. So firstly, let's look at price point. So looking at price point, generally, like I said earlier, we want to be between 15 and 100 pounds. We can see that there's a tick for price point here. Average price point is about 23 pounds. Don't just look at this, guys. Let me zoom on this for a little bit for you. So don't just look at the averages up here, actually have a look at the figures here, but we can see price points looking pretty good. I would say average is somewhere between kind of 15 and 20 pounds. There's a few that are a little bit cheap here, but overall price point looks okay. What's also good, and something you should always look out for as well, just a little bonus tip, is sometimes you'll see that there's variations in pricing in products, or sometimes you'll see pricing's very uniform. Now, when pricing's very uniform, what that means is, it tends to mean is there's a hard ceiling to pricing. So if everything is selling for about $13.99, what that tends to mean, let's say, is that there have been people that have tried to launch at a higher price, but they've just not performed particularly well. When you see an example like this, where there are higher priced products and there's variation in pricing, what you always want to ask yourself is, what impact has that had on sales? Do the higher priced products sell as well or close to as well as the lowest priced products? And if you find that only the lower priced products sell well, the higher priced products are just not selling at all, be careful about entering into a market like that, because you're mainly going to be competing on price. In this example here, we can see, okay, these guys are selling at $28.99 and they're selling just as well as, the guys selling at cheaper price points. These guys here selling at £40, or these guys here at $19.99. Okay, $19.99 a bit less. But yeah, here we go. These guys $21.99. Still doing decent sales. So this is what we like to see. Price point's looking good overall, and also the high price products are also selling quite well. So it's a kind of tick overall for price point. So once you've looked at the price point, the next thing you want to look at is the level of demand. Now, when looking at the level of demand, there's a few things that you want to be looking at, right? So the first thing that you want to be looking at is what is the overall demand looking like? So is the demand for the product strong? How evenly distributed is it? And I'll come back to that in a sec. The second thing you want to look at is the demand within my budget, which is really important. The third thing is, what does demand look like over time? So it's really important to know that when you're looking at this, you want to look at the parent level revenue, by the way, not ASIN level revenue. When you're looking at this is a snapshot. So this is just sales over the last 30 days. Now, you don't know what demand has been like over the last year. Is this a really high point in demand? Is it high season for this product? Is it a low point? Is it even seasonal at all? Is it demand? Is it growing, or is it declining over time? So that's something you really want to look at as well. Okay, so let's actually do that in practice, right? So if we look here, what we can see is that demand for this product is really good. It's very strong. There's good, strong demand. There's lots of sellers doing really good revenue numbers, and also that revenue is quite evenly distributed. So it's not one or two sellers absolutely dominating. Instead, okay guys, so it got quite cold, so I just needed to put a quick jumper on. All right, so let's get back into it. Okay, so let's actually look at the demand for this product then. So what we can see here is that the demand for the product overall is really good, right? So there's a lot of sellers doing really good revenue numbers, and that revenue is pretty evenly distributed. We can see there's loads and loads of sellers doing really good revenue numbers. It's really solid demand for this product. Now, sometimes what you'll see is that there's just one or two sellers or a few of them doing really well, and then revenue just drops off, and the others are all doing really low revenue. What that kind of shows is there's not enough demand to basically service that many sellers. There's not a big enough pie for all of the sellers to have a decent slice of the pie. In this kind of an example like this, where you see lots of sellers doing really good revenue numbers, it shows you that the overall demand for the product as a whole is high enough for lots of different sellers to be generating a high revenue, and it can give you much more confidence that you're going to be able to generate a good revenue yourself. So this is what we like to see. So that's a tick there. The second thing is whether the demand is within your whether the demand is within your budget or not. And we can see here clearly it's definitely not, right? So your budget was around the £5,000 mark. So let's say you had a £5,000 starting budget. You'd be looking for products where the top 10 sellers are roughly doing around the £5,000 mark in terms of revenue. It could be a bit higher, a bit lower, but around that. Here we can see that the average revenue numbers, we've got 40, 20, 15, 10, 17. You would need probably, a 25, £30,000 budget to be able to launch a product like this. So you definitely wouldn't be able to launch this with your budget. So at this point, if you had a 5K budget, you would say, nope, the revenue's too high, I can't launch this product, and you would basically remove this from your list. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm just gonna keep going and just pretend that you had a bigger budget and this was within budget, but at this point, if you had a smaller budget, that's basically what you would do here. So let's say that this was in your budget. What we'd do is we'd give this another tick, and the kind of final thing we'd look at here is basically demand over time. Now, normally what we would do is we'd come over to this search volume section here, and we'd look at the search volume over time. So search volume for the main keyword basically shows you the demand, how many people are searching that main keyword. That shows you the demand for the product over time. Now here what we can see is the search volume is only 38. Now the reason why the search volume is so low, only 38 searches, is because I didn't go through that process of checking for the main keyword on Magnet. And this is a great way to basically show you whether you've done that or not. So what I'm gonna do is come back over to the Magnet tool. I've already done this. I've just searched for salt and pepper grinder set. Again, I'll select organic, hit apply filters. Make sure I've got the main keyword. I'll filter by search volume. I know that the main keyword does not have 38 searches per month because look at these revenue numbers, it just can't. So what we can see is salt and pepper grinder set is the main keyword with 30,000 monthly searches. So when you're trying to work out what demand looks like over time, look at a few keywords. So it's best to do this in the Magnet tool. We'll click on search volume and we'll click on this little button here, and then we'll look at all time. And basically what we want to see is whether it is a seasonal product, which we can see here this is. So if you see this kind of peak and trough, if you see this kind of peak and trough thing happening, then we know that there are low periods and high periods for this product. This would be what we would consider a seasonal product. So we want to work out whether it's seasonal or not. And number two, whether demand is increasing or decreasing. So what we can see here, and if you want to have a better look, you can just kind of drag and drop and we'll just look at that specific time. What we can see here is that this number one is a seasonal product, And number two, the demand's actually growing over time. So we have slightly higher highs, slightly lower lows. You can see there's a bit of a trend for demand increasing over time, I would say. So in an ideal situation, what are you looking for? Well, you're looking for a product that's not seasonal, that has really consistent sales all year round. The reason why you're looking for that is number one, you're going to have consistent profit and cash flow all year round. You're not going to have to worry about ordering larger quantities for specific times of year, which can be screwed up by stock getting stuck while shipping, getting stuck at customs, whatever it might be. You're not screwed over by having excess stock if you don't sell as much as you like and then being hit with high storage fees. You just have nice consistent sales all year round. It makes forecasting way easier, etc. So that's ideally what you're looking for, and ideally something that has growing demand. As they say, I think the saying is a rising tide raises all ships. So if the demand for the product is increasing, then obviously your demand for your specific product, the revenue for your product, will also grow over time as demand grows. So that's an ideal situation. So this ticks one of the boxes, but unfortunately it's a cross for the other box, as it is seasonal. So it's seasonal. It has a high period during over the kind of Christmas period. This is probably because it's a really gifted item, and then kind of slows down during winter periods. Now, this is not as bad as it can get. So this is really something that's important to mention. In a really bad seasonal product, something that you just definitely want to avoid, you'll have these big peaks and then it'll drop to basically nothing. There'll be no demand during the low period. Something like swimming pools would be an example, outdoor swimming pools. In this kind of situation, the lows are not that low. So at the low point, there's 20,000. The lowest point, there's 20,000 monthly searches. At the high point, there's about 30 to 40,000 monthly searches. What that's saying is there is still really good demand even in the low periods. So this is a product I wouldn't worry so much about seasonality. It's still probably best to avoid for your first product, but basically, just so you know, this is not it can get worse than this, okay? So then what we want to do is we just want to have a look at a few more keywords, confirm that we see the same kind of thing. Yep, so if you look at 2 or 3, it might be one keyword has a bit of funny data. If you look at like 2 or 3 and the data looks the same, you can say, okay, yeah, this is definitely a seasonal product. Again, seasonal, but looks like it's slowly increasing in demand. Okay, so yeah, so far we've got a tick for price point. If it was within your budget, it'd be a tick for demand. The only red flag so far, if it was within your budget, like I said, the only red flag so far here is the seasonality, which is not a complete no because it's not so bad, like I said, but if it wasn't within your budget, it would be a hard no. So once we've looked at demand, the kind of final thing that you want to look at is strength of competition. Now, what a lot of people will do is they would just come over to have a look at the reviews and review ratings. They'll say, okay, look, how many reviews does this product have? Okay, they've all got thousands of reviews. The review rating's pretty good. It's too high demand, it's too high competition. I don't want to enter the market. Now, I'm not saying don't look at reviews, definitely look at reviews, but it's not all about reviews, okay? So look, obviously if you're looking at a market and all the sellers have really low reviews, then what that kind of shows is it's not a particularly mature market. It's going to be easier to enter as a new seller that also has low reviews. For sure, that is definitely a valid point. However, you need to look at more than that, okay? So review rating, I would argue, is actually more important than reviews. Like for instance, if you're looking at a market and loads of the sellers have a really low review rating, what that shows is there is clearly a problem with this product, right? There's a reason why all of these products are getting low review ratings. Maybe the product doesn't work properly. They're all selling a really similar design. When you see that, so that's one thing to look for. If you see that the review ratings are pretty low across the board, in that situation, what you can see is there's a gap in the market, there's a problem. So to then work out how to fill that gap, which is kind of stage 3 of the product research process, you need to see what's wrong with the product. So in that kind of situation, what you'd basically want to do is click into these products, and you'd basically want to have a look at them and see what people are complaining about. So either you can click into the reviews and then manually do this, or what you can do is come over to the Helium 10 tool, and it has this awesome tool here called Review Insights. So if you click into Review Insights, let it load. Okay, so it's telling me I have to log into Amazon. Okay, so I'm not gonna bother doing that right now, but basically I'll just walk you through it. What you could do is if you click on, also this has good reviews, so it's not gonna work particularly well with this product, but what you wanna do is click on this keyword section here. When you click on the keyword section, or if you look here for top phrases, Basically what it will show you is, if you look at top phrases or keywords, basically what it will show you is like the most common thing that basic customers are saying, the most common phrases people are using. So if they're continuously saying it's flimsy, low quality build material, or this function doesn't work, you can then pick up the main things people are complaining about. And if you go through that process, like I said, either manually or using that tool for multiple products, you see that customers are complaining about the same thing again and again. You know the gap in the market. The gap in the market is that all your competitors have low review ratings because they're all selling a plastic, flimsy version of the product. Let's say it was this example. You know that the way to differentiate your product is to launch a solid glass version that grinds things really well. Therefore, you're going to get 5-star reviews. And when customers are looking through the search results, everyone else has 3.5 star, you have 4.5 plus star rating. You're going to stand out as the obvious choice because you have the best social proof. So that's the way that you've got to be thinking when you're looking at the competition, right? So not just reviews, but also when you're just looking. So, once you've looked at that data, what I would personally always do is then actually come and have a look at the products themselves, right? So things you need to be thinking about are, is everyone selling a very similar version of this product? If they are, then there's room for me to enter with a different design. If there are loads of different designs like here, that's clearly not going to be the easiest option. There's so many different designs here, so it might be that it's a little bit hard to introduce something to the market that's kind of different and unique here. But in some markets, it'll be super easy. So, is there variation in the design? What's the quality of the product listings like? If the product listing images are really rubbish across the board, maybe that's your route to differentiate yourself and stand out. What's the branding like? So if all the products were just like this with no branding, then a great way you could think, okay, well, look, this is the gap in the market. There's no focus on branding. Like these, then what you could do is have really nice branding on the product, some great product packaging. I'm trying to find an example. Maybe a great product packaging like these guys. This is not great, by the way, but you could have great product packaging in your main hero image, and that would be the route for you to differentiate and stand out. And it can be as simple as something like that. So don't just look at reviews. Look at reviews, review ratings, look at how many different variations and products there are, look at the quality of the product listings, look at whether they're bundled with anything. Think about all the different ways that you could do something different, okay? So a really easy example, I did say don't launch an electronic product, but if you didn't mind launching an electronic product, something that you could look at in a market like this is if everyone's selling manual grinders, then what you can think is, wow, nobody's selling electric grinders. Maybe I can differentiate myself and launch an electronic version of this product. And that's the way that I would do something different, stand out from the competition. And obviously, if people, were looking for them, then maybe that's a way that you could actually outcompete your competitors. A great way to kind of validate that idea is having a look at the magnet search data as well. So this is really something that's quite interesting to think about is, when you're using the magnet tool, when you're looking at the keyword data here, what this is showing you is all the different keywords that people are using to find the product, right? So what we can see here, using that example, is that electric, the word electric it has a modifier. All of these are pretty much the same. They're just different ways of saying grinder. The kind of first modifier is OXO, which is a brand. So that's not helpful. But the first modifier in terms of the type of product is electric, and that has really good search volume. So what we can say is, hey, look, there's a lot of people looking for electric grinders. There's 3,000 monthly searches specifically for electric grinders. If you see something like that, however, when you're looking at the search results, there are no electric grinders. That's a perfect example of a great gap in the market. People are looking for a product that those people looking for the product are not being served with the product that they're looking for. That's how you can enter the market. So when you're assessing the strength of the competition, you need to be taking a holistic view and looking at lots of different things, looking for gaps in the market, ways that you can create something better. Okay, these guys, a really good example. They might be looking at the market and think, okay, everyone's selling these really boring basic designs. No one's selling with variation listings. They're all just really simple, boring designs. Hey, maybe we can launch a brand that has 5 really nice earthy colors, variation listings, all focused around branding and having really nice clean colors. And we're going to make it electric because that's what people are searching for, as an example. And that's the way that they would differentiate themselves. And that's a great example of what these guys here have done. And basically what you need to be asking yourself is is there opportunity here? Can I see a clear way that I'm able to differentiate my product offer, stand out from the competition, and offer the customer something, an offer that's going to be more desirable than what's out there at the moment? And basically, if you can say yes to that, then that's great. If you can think of a way to do that and you're confident about that, then yeah, definitely move forward with the product idea. However, if you just can't think of any way to be able to do that, and you just don't think you can launch a product offer that's going to be more desirable in the market for whatever reason it might be, just because there's no gap, then you need to basically say, nope, I'm not going to move forward with this product. Even if all the other criteria, is met, you can't move forward with the product, and then you need to go through that process again with the next product on your list. Okay guys, so that's basically a live walkthrough of how I do product research. I'm sure this video is going to end up being so much longer than I expected. But yeah, I got on a bit of a roll there. So I hope you found the video helpful. I hope this makes you better product researchers. And yeah, if you found the video helpful, let me know in the comments below. Give the video a like, consider subscribing for more content like this, and I will see you in the next one.